Hello, good evening. I want to explain 4 data structures in Python. So I can list them here. We have the tuple, list, dictionary, and set. So all these data structures, you can store multiple elements inside one data structure. Okay. Now we have the tuple. So I can give a markdown list. So here I start with tuple. So the tuple, I can say is an ordered collection of elements enclosed with this bracket here. I can also say the tuple is immutable. So the tuple is immutable, meaning you cannot change. Or you can say if you have 5 elements in tuple, once you have created this tuple with 5 elements, you cannot change it. So a tuple can be created like this. So I can give a markdown to this. So I want to create a tuple. Okay. So I can have opening and closing bracket. So inside my tuple, I have the following elements. Number 1, I have letter X. I also have true. I have letter, let's say Y, inside the double quotes. And I also have a number 23.7. Okay. Let me assign this as tuple 1. So I can assign variable tuple 1. Okay. Then I run it. When I call on tuple 1, you realize that the elements will be displayed as shown. Okay. So we have to access the individual elements. So accessing the individual elements, you use the index. For example, you want to access the last element here. So my last element is element number 4. Okay. So I just run this code, tuple 1, that way. So it will return the last element in this sequence. Okay. Now, what if I want maybe to change? So I want to change the first element here. So I'll say tuple 1. So let's say I want to replace this value 1 with a different value. Let's say I'm replacing 1 with a file like 100. Okay. So I'm going to replace this first element with a different value. Then I run it. Okay. So you realize that it gives an error. So I run it. Just run it. Tap 1. So it gives an error. So this error reads tuple object does not support item assignment. So remember we had said that this tuple, they are immutable. Okay, so this one tells you that you cannot change the content in a tuple. That's what it means. Okay, now I'm moving to the next structure, that is the list. Can give it a markdown. So what is this structure, or how does it work? Okay, so a list is it's an ordered, you can write that. It's an ordered collection of elements enclosed in a square bracket. So they're enclosed in a square bracket. Okay. So unlike the tuple, lists are mutable. You can see they are mutable. Okay. So meaning it can be changed once they are created. So that's the meaning of being mutable. So I can give an example. For example, I can have the elements enclosed in a square bracket. So I have 1. I also have letter A. I also have true. I have value true. I also have, let's say, B. And false. Okay. So you see the output of 6 elements when you run it. So before that, I'll assign this a variable name. So I can call it list1 equal sign. Okay, then I execute or I run it. So when I call on my list1 and I run it, you get to see the 6 elements displayed as shown. Now we see that the list is order. So to access the elements, you have to use the index. For example, to access first element here, we use index 0. So I want to access the first element. So I'm going to use index 0. Okay. Now, if you want to access a sequence of elements, let's say 3 elements, I want to access, let's say, elements, these elements here, the first or the last 3 elements, or the 3 elements here. So I'll go ahead and type list1 2 to 5. Then I call on it. We get to see that the sequence is displayed as shown. Okay, now we said a list are mutable, meaning it will change. Okay, let me say, or else let me say on the elements the value 0 or the value 1, for example, the value 1 here. I want to change this value 1 with a different value. So I'd say L1 equals sign. So I want to change it to a different value, maybe equal to 5, and I run it. So when I call on list 1, you get to see that the value has been changed to from 1 to 5. Okay. Now, what if you want to add a couple of elements into the list? Maybe I want to add a sword maybe to this list. How do you go about that? So I'll just say L1 dot append. So I want to append the word like sword, then I close the bracket. So when I run it, then I call on my list, I get to see that the sword has been added on the list. Okay, so that's how we go about when adding something on the list. And so if you want to change the changes, I will use pop. So what if I want to unchange? Okay, to unchange means to refer back to the previous. Okay, so I'll just use the pop. So here I'll say L1 dot pop, and I open and close the bracket. So if I run it, and then I call on my L1, you get to see that the sword has been dropped. The word sword was recently added, been dropped. So that's how we can do away with the previous or the refer back the changes made. Okay, and now move to the next structure. My next structure is a dictionary. I give a markdown that. Now, what's a dictionary, or how does the dictionary work? So before that, a dictionary is an ordered an ordered collection of key values pairs enclosed with a curly bracket. So this one is enclosed by a curly bracket as shown below. Now dictionaries are mutable. So another thing you need to note about the dictionaries, they are mutable. Okay. They are mutable, meaning you can change. Okay, you can change the elements as you wish. That is the meaning of that. Okay, for example, I'm going to give an example here inside the curly brackets. So maybe I've got the mangoes, for example. I've got a mango being sold at 100. Let's see, I've got an apple. So the apple is being sold maybe at a cost of 120. I also have bananas being sold at cost of 50, and maybe the guava being sold at that cost. Okay, so the list of items that I have. Then I can assign a variable name, maybe dictionary 1. So I assign dictionary 1. So when I call on my dictionary 1, I get to see my elements with the key values, or the keys with the values, with their respective values. Okay. Now, sometimes you only want to access the keys and you don't want to access the values. Like I want to access the keys, like the mango, apple, bananas, without the values. So in this case, you call on the variables. So I call on the variable d1 keys. So when I call on that and then I run it, you get to see the keys without the values. Now sometimes again you want to access the values, like 100, 125, and 60 without the keys. So again I go ahead and write, or so in that case you will say d1 dot values. Then I run, so you see the values without the keys. Now you see that the dictionaries are mutable. If probably you want to change maybe the values here, maybe the value 100 to 120 for the mango, we can say dictionary 1 mango equal to 120. Okay, then I run it. So when I call it on my dictionary 1, you get to see that the value of the mangoes are changed to 120. Okay, now when I move to sets, set, so here it is a collection, it's an ordered and an indexed, so I can write that it is an ordered and an indexed collection of elements enclosed with a color bracket. So that the color bracket, you're going to use it, or it's enclosed in that color bracket. So another thing we need to know is that it doesn't allow duplicates. Okay, so duplicates are not allowed. Okay, so duplicates are not allowed in this case here. Okay, so I can give a markdown to this. Then I give an example. So I'll give an example here. Let's say I have the elements 3. Then again let I've got the value 3.75 maybe. Okay. Then I can assign a variable set1. So when I call on my S1, I get to see the elements. Okay. Now let's try the duplicates and see the output. So let me try giving a duplicate. So I can just copy this as it is, or I can add a duplicate here. Let me just add it. I can add one. Okay, then I add maybe letter A. So when I call on my okay, so let me add it. Instead of adding it here, we just just add this one. So I want to see what will happen when I run it. So I get to see that in the duplicates. So because it cannot accept the duplicates, it will just return the same results as it were before. Okay, that's why we say duplicates are not allowed. Now what if I want to add an element here, like hello world? So I want to add an element to my list. Okay, so I'm going to add onto my set, I'm going to add the hello world. Then I close the bracket, I run it. So when I call on my set1, I get to see that the word has been added onto my list. Now I can add a different element in different order. So let me add another list of elements in a different order. So I'm going to use my s1.update. So let me say I'm adding the word Sparta. On the side, I add the value 1 to 3. I can also add 3 plus 9j. Then I close the bracket. I run it. Then I call on my set1. I get to see that the new changes have been made, as you can see. Now there's a difference between add and update. So to add means you are adding only one element, but if you are adding more than one element, use update. Thank you for watching. See you again in my next video. Bye.